What's up, Guardians? In this video, we'll be going over the Arc 3.0 subclass. We'll cover all the different effects, how they work, and how they interact with the rest of Destiny. This video is going to end up being a little long, so I put timestamps in the description. I'm also going to go over most of the exotic and weapon interactions at the end of the video. The Arc subclass has 5 major effects. Amplified, Ionic Trace, and Speed Booster are all effects that boost an aspect of the player's abilities, while Blind and Jolt are effects that the player can apply to an enemy target. Let's start with Amplified. Amplified is the main effect of the Arc subclass. Most of the subclass will ask you to be amplified in order to get an effect to activate. There are a lot of ways to get amplified. To start with, simply defeating targets with arc damage will amplify you, and not just ability damage, but weapon damage as well. Different types of targets will contribute more to getting you amplified than others. Rank and file enemies will get you 25% of the way there. Major level enemies will get you 50%. Bosses, champions, and even mini bosses will get you amplified all on their own. Defeating a Guardian in PvP will get you 50%. In order to get amplified, you'll need to defeat targets within 6 seconds of each other using arc damage. So 4 rank and file enemies, 2 rank and file, 1 major enemy, you get the idea. Once you're amplified, you'll instantly get a boost of 50 points to your mobility, 40 points to your handling, and your slide distance will be increased by a third. Amplified will last for 15 seconds and can be refreshed using a number of different ways at any time. Being amplified also gives you access to the Speed Booster buff. After sprinting for 2.5 seconds, Speed Booster will activate. Speed Booster gives you an extra 12.5% to your sprint speed, increases your slide distance by half, and doubles your jump height. In PvE activities, you'll also get a 15% damage resistance boost. Each class has at least one way to get amplified that's unique to them. Titans can get amplified with melee kills using their knockout aspect. Hunters can amplify themselves with disorienting blow if they hit a target, and with the flow state aspect, killing a jolted target. Warlocks can use the electrostatic mind aspect that allows them to become amplified whenever they pick up an Ionic Trace. They can also consume their grenade using the Getaway Artist exotic gauntlets. Every class has access to the Arc multi-kill method to getting amplified as an intrinsic effect, along with the Spark of Volts fragment, which amplifies you on finisher. There are numerous effects that occur while you are amplified. Speed Booster is one of them, along with the effect of Spark of Amplitude, which spawns an orb of power on a multi-kill. Spark of Beacons will cause a blinding effect when you get an Arc special weapon kill. The Titan's Seismic Strike blinding effect has a larger area of effect, and the targets are blinded longer. The Shield from the Titan Juggernaut aspect will add a 33% damage resistance buff in PvE, and it'll be able to take more damage before breaking. The Titan Exotic Point Contact Cannon Brace will give increased range to the Thunderclap melee lightning effect. The Hunter's Flow State aspect will boost ability regenerate by 200%. It also buffs their reload speed and gives damage resistance to their dodge. The Warlock's melee abilities get a boost as well. The Ball of Lightning effect will hit 3 times instead of 1, and Chain Lightning will chain to twice the number of enemies. Their Arc Soul will also shoot faster. Ionic Traces are little beams of arc energy that will track towards you. When you pick them up, they give you a small amount of grenade, melee, and class ability energy. There isn't a cooldown for picking up a trace, so if you pick up 20 at one time, you'll get the ability energy from all 20. There are cooldowns on the effects that spawn the traces, however. Every class has a few ways to spawn Ionic Traces, with the Titans and Warlocks having some that are specific to them. Unfortunately, Hunters don't have anything in their specific kit that allows them to generate Ionic Traces. The Spark of Discharge fragment uses arc weapon kills to spawn a trace, while the Spark of Ions fragment spawns a trace from defeating a jolted enemy. The Delicate Tomb Exotic Fusion Rifle will generate Ionic Traces from kills, and the Cold Heart Exotic will generate Ionic Traces from dealing damage while in its max damage state. Titans can use their Touch of Thunder aspect to generate Ionic Traces by damaging enemies with their pulse grenades. Warlocks have access to the Electrostatic Mind aspect, which will generate Ionic Traces when they defeat an enemy with arc abilities or enemies that are blinded or jolted. The Spark of Discharge fragment will need to charge to 100% to spawn an Ionic Trace. Different enemies will grant a different amount of charge. Rank and file enemies give you 34% charge, major level enemies will give you 67% charge, and bosses and mini bosses and champions will give you 100% charge, which will spawn a trace on their own once they're defeated. Guardians will grant a 67% charge in PvP. Arc Blind is an effect that the player can put on enemy targets. It causes PvE enemies to become disoriented and stop attacking you. Guardians will get a whiteout effect on their screen that removes their HUD and will even muffle their audio. Unfortunately, all champions and bosses are immune to the Arc Blind effect, as well as enemy vehicles and turrets. However, your abilities that activate from blinding a target will still activate. You can blind a boss, not have them be affected by it, and still have the Fragment Spark of Brilliance activate when you defeat the boss. All classes can apply Arc Blind to a target using the Flashbang Grenade. When you use the Flashbang Grenade with the Titan aspect Touch of Thunder, the grenade will emit an Arc Blind effect when it bounces the first time. When you have the Spark of Beacons aspect, defeating a target with an arced special weapon while amplified will apply the blind effect to other enemies in the area. Spark of Brilliance will blind a target when you get a precision kill on an already blinded target nearby, or you can use Touch of Malice's alternate fire mode. Hunters have the Disorienting Blow, which causes arc blind on the target that they hit. They also use the Lethal Current aspect, which causes the arc blind effect when they use their melee to hit a jolted target. Titans just need to hit a target with their Seismic Strike melee in order to cause a blind effect. Warlocks unfortunately don't have anything in their specific kit that lets them blind targets. It's important to note that not all of the blinding effects in Destiny are arc blinding effects. The Arc subclass will note that an ability needs an arc blind to activate. Blinding grenades from grenade launchers, the Hunter exotic, the Bombardiers, Fellwinter's Helm, Gemini Jesters, and Helm of Saint 14 all do a blinding effect, but it is not an arc blind and will not activate abilities in the Arc 3.0 subclass. Arc Jolt is an effect that the player can apply to enemy targets. After a target is jolted, taking a certain amount of additional damage will release lightning, dealing damage to the jolted enemy and other enemies in an 8-meter radius. Only specific arc abilities or arc weapons can apply Jolt to a target, but any type of damage can trigger the lightning effect. The lightning effect has a 1.3 second cooldown between activations. In PvP, a jolted Guardian will not receive damage from the lightning effect unless it also damages another Guardian when it activates. All classes can apply Arc Jolt using a weapon that has the perk Jolt Shot, the Spark of Shock Fragment, which allows players to apply Jolt with their grenade, the Delicate Tomb Exotic Fusion Rifle, and the exotic sniper Darcy. Hunters can apply Jolt to targets with the Lethal Current aspect by hitting an enemy with a melee attack. The Powered Melee, while sliding effect given by Tempest Strike will generate a jolted effect on an enemy, and their Gathering Storm Super will apply Jolt to targets it damages. Titans can apply Jolt using the Touch of Thunder aspect and dealing damage to enemies with their Lightning Grenade. Warlocks can jolt targets with their Chain Lightning Powered Melee, or by using the Powered Melee Slide effect given by the Lightning Surge aspect. There are some lightning effects that are not a result of the Arc subclass Jolt effect, and therefore won't have any interactions with the subclass. The effect from the Warmind Cell mod Modular Lightning does not have a Jolt effect. The weapons Cloud Strike, Edge of Concurrence, Legend of Acurus, Risk Runner, Trinity Ghoul, and Thunderlord all have lightning effects, but they are not Jolt effects. The Dune Marchers and Vesper Radiant's armors also don't have any Jolt effects. The Arc Supers, other than Gathering Storm, also don't have any Jolt effects with their lightning effects. Arc Staff, Fist of Havoc, Thunder Crash, Chaos Reach, and Storm Trance do not trigger any Jolt effects when they damage a target. Quick note, the Titan aspect knockout will make it so that the uncharged melee does arc damage. It won't be just the charged melee that does arc damage while the aspect is active. There are several exotics that have interactions with the Arc subclass. Some old exotics were updated to better mix with the Arc 3.0 update as well. The exotics Point Contact Cannon Brace, Fallen Star, and Delicate Tomb came out with the Arc 3.0 update and heavily interact with the Arc subclass. Fallen Sunstar boosts the tracking speed of Ionic Traces and gives double the amount of energy when the trace is picked up by the player. It also gives nearby allied players a 10% boost to their ability cooldown as well. The Delicate Tomb Fusion Rifle will apply Jolt to a target on the next shot after the player picks up an Ionic Trace. If you have the Catalyst, ammo will be put directly into your mag from your reserves. Point Contact Cannon Brace adds lightning effects to your Thunderclap similar to that of Jolt. Enemies hit by these lightning effects will be damaged by your melee. Being amplified increases this effect. The exotic weapons Cold Heart and Darcy got an update with the Arc 3.0 subclass release. Cold Heart will now generate an Arc Trace while it's in its max damage mode. Darcy will now apply Jolt to targets it's highlighted with its personal assistant perk. With the Arc 3.0 update, Getaway Artist will now amplify you when you consume your grenade to get the Arc Soul. Crown of Tempest now counts Jolt kills as Arc ability kills and will activate its exotic perk. Arc 3.0 brought a lot of cool stuff, and I have very much enjoyed zapping my enemies. If you have a question, please leave a comment. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I again need to thank Court Projects. I used some of their info from their Arc Sandbox Google Doc. I recommend supporting them if you find their work as helpful as I did. And as always, have fun, Guardians.